Hey, sweet mama. Welcome back to another episode of Mom in Process. I'm your host and creator, Amy Cawthron. Thank you so much for joining me again today. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. Thank you so much for trusting me with your time and your headspace and your heart space today. I'm going to keep this one a little bit light and fun. And I know I've had a couple of heavy episodes lately, and with everything going on and the craziness of just life in general, I just wanted to keep this episode super light and fun. And what I want to talk about is the realities of basically like a reality check for those that are interested or considering pursuing a life as a full-time or stay-at-home mom. But I'm going to do this with a little bit of a twist. This is kind of a humorous approach to it, but also literally true. Depending on what you Google, as far as basic needs go, you get different answers. Some of them are incredibly basic and some of them dive a little bit deeper. But for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to use these as the basic necessities for survival as a human, your basic needs. Okay. So your basic needs as a human are food, and we're lumping water into that. So food, clothing, sleep, and shelter. These are your basic needs for survival. Okay. This is pretty much what you need to provide for your children for them to be alive. I mean, we all know that there's more that goes into this as well. You know, love also goes into this. Acceptance, I think, is another one. There's all of these other areas. I mean, water gets broken out, warmth gets broken out, clothing. I think I already listed clothing, but there's all these others that can be broken down as well. But for the sake of this conversation, we're going to go with food, clothing, sleep, and shelter. The ironic thing about this is that these are going to be the four main headaches that you have in your role as a stay-at-home mom. At one point or another, possibly every single day, these four items are going to cause you frustration, cause you stress, create the most work. Obviously, they're going to be work because they're required for you to stay alive and keep your children alive and raise them. But let's break down food. Okay. Food. You will forever have your life revolving around meal times and food. And the routine that you put in place in your day is going to always revolve around food. More as a full-time mom than as a mom who works out of the house. We organically, as humans, live our lives in ebbs and flows of meal times. I mean, that makes sense. But as a stay-at-home mom, you will have moments, I guarantee you will have moments when you have felt like you have lived in the kitchen all day long, from wake up time to the time you go and lay your head down at night. Okay. Food will be what your life is revolved around constantly. And if it's not 3 meals a day, it's 3 meals a day and snacks. When you're nursing a baby, if maybe you have a newborn and you're thinking of staying at home, food will be the most forefront aspect of your entire life. Whether you're giving a bottle, whether you're nursing, whether you're trying to feed yourself while you're nursing, food, what is supposed to be a basic necessity of life, is going to start to consume you. Okay. Nobody warned me about that. Nobody warned me about the moment that I would wake up and be in the kitchen and then go to bed right after I finished the dishes and feel like the only thing I did was stand barefoot in the flipping kitchen all day. Like, what a stereotype, but it's true. Okay. It's true. That is the reality of being a stay-at-home mom. And you will find ways, I hope, to find the balance of that and create better systems around that. But the truth of the matter is, are you prepared to have your life revolving around food? Now, what goes in must come out. Okay. I'm going to go a little bit deeper here. Literally, nobody warned me that my life and my mindset, no, not my mindset, the brain power and energy that it takes to monitor everybody's bowel movement in the house. I know when every single one of my children poops, what it looks like, how it went for them, if they haven't pooped, how many times a day they've pooped. Everybody. I mean, we're talking like a household of 5. And I'm seriously including my husband in this because there are moments that these are the discussions that we have as married couples. Welcome to marriage in your 30s. So nobody warned me about that part of it. What goes in must come out. And you are acutely aware of everything that goes in, when it goes in, how it goes in, how much of it goes in, what should go in, what shouldn't go in, and then also what comes out. Okay. Nobody really warned me about that. I thought changing diapers, no problem. I never really fathomed the amount of conversations that we would have focused around poop. Okay. Just a reality. Next one. We're going to dive into clothing. I knew that there would be laundry. I knew that there would be clothes. Obviously, before Brad and I decided to have children, we had our own laundry to do. That's just, a task of being an adult. And that was fine. I didn't quite fathom the fact, and it took me a lot of years, actually, even as I developed into my role of a stay-at-home mom, the fact that it is never finished, ever, 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 ever. There will always be something, and there will always be, no matter how hard I try and no matter how many times I talk to the kids, there will always be a random sock somewhere. It's either by the front door where they took their shoes off. Sometimes it's laying on the couch. I'm not sure why. Sometimes I find them in the kitchen. Also, not sure why. Laying on the stairs as you go down to their bedrooms. Again, not sure why. I am not kidding you. I found a sock in a tree last summer. I have no clue how it got there. A sock in a tree, just dangling in the tree, a sock. I don't really want to know how it got there. I don't want to know if somebody climbed up there. Like I don't want to know, genuinely. But nobody warned me about just like random articles of clothing everywhere. And as much as we try to minimize our wardrobes, and I mean, we always have better work or more work that we could do in our household, at least. Some people are wonderful at this. I am not perfect at it, but no matter how hard I try, there's always still a random article of clothing somewhere. Nobody told me that one of the basic needs, basic necessities of life as clothing will become one of my biggest frustrations, one of my biggest headaches. And aside from that, monitoring their clothing to make sure it always fits. Oh my gosh, we're a household of 3 children and they are constantly outgrowing everything, and the cost of new clothing, all of that. Be prepared as a stay-at-home mom. Again, one of the basic necessities of clothing is going to be the forefront of your role, the forefront of your duties to manage as a stay-at-home mom, making sure they fit. Well, I mean, honestly, that happens for working moms also, but you are acutely aware of it when you're seeing it all the time. That's what you will see and stare at all the time, where, and not to play that comparison game, but I just feel like it's noteworthy to say, as a working mom who works out of the home, there's other things that you get to look at. Maybe you're a nurse and you get to help somebody stitch up a cut or something that day. But as a stay-at-home mom, all we're doing is staring at laundry, clothes, socks, like all of it all day long. And even if we're trying our very best and being very intentional to stay up on it and everything, when the kids are home, they use so many clothes. When especially in the summertime, the kids will go through, so many clothes. I mean, it's just to the point where we live on the property, and I mean, I don't care. Like, just go outside in your underwear. Like, you don't even need clothes for the last several years since we've been out here. Just don't even bother getting dressed in the morning, because I know you're going to just strip them off and leave them outside anyways. And we're going to have to make sure that you gather them up and bring them inside, or I'm going to find a random sock floating around in a tree, something like that. So let's move on to the third basic necessity as a human being and what we focus on as a stay-at-home mom that I just feel like you should be aware of, that this is your life. Okay. As a full-time mom, sleep. Oh, sleep. Oh, the precious, precious sleep. Say goodbye to it, by the way, at least temporarily for a little while. A couple things on sleep though, especially with newborns. There are sleep training things. We could dive into that into a different conversation, but sleep in and of itself is fleeting. It's something that you hope and wish for. And then it's something that you battle your kids. Here you are. All you want to do is go to bed. All you want to do is close your eyes. All you want to do is go to sleep. But yet your infant, your toddler is battling you, fighting you. They want to do everything they possibly can to not sleep. And all you want to do is go lay down and sleep. It is confusing as fuck. Honestly, it is so confusing. It is so frustrating. You are exhausted. They're exhausted. They refuse to sleep. All you want to do is sleep. But then also your entire life gets scheduled around nap time, scheduled around sleep. When is bedtime? When is wake up time? When is nap time? Do we have 2 nap times? Do we have 1 nap time? Can we go to the park and play? I don't know. It depends on what time nap time is. And this is constant. As a stay-at-home mom, this is 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Everything revolves around sleep. The only moments that you have to yourself are when you sleep. So sleep becomes so precious. You are acutely aware of the luxury of sleep when you are a full-time mom and the easiness of just climbing and crawling into your bed and falling asleep and sleeping through the night. Typically, a lot of the times, if your husband or spouse works out of the house, we take on that role often, more often than not, of getting up, especially if you have a nursing baby. But if the kids are sick or whatever, I mean, that really does tend to fall on mothers more often than not. And even if you're a working mom, I've heard that this really tends to fall on the burden of women more often than it does of men. So I don't necessarily want to exclude the working moms in this, but just for the sake of this conversation, typically as stay-at-home mom, like in our household, Brad tries to get up sometimes, he's really good about that, or I'll kind of like wake him up because he's such a hard sleeper. So he's really good with that. But I get up more often because he does have to get up and go to work during the day. Like I could, if I wanted, lay down and take a rest, which I am a huge advocate of. Your sleep schedule completely changes when you're a stay-at-home mom. And if there's a moment, especially if you have a newborn and you have the older kids that are sleeping, or your toddlers that are sleeping, take a nap. And it's completely acceptable. You start to learn and should learn that when you have very young children, a nap, if you need it during the day, is probably going to be one of your most restful moments. Okay. And so sleep becomes something you're acutely aware of the necessity to have. It impacts how you present yourself during the entire day. It impacts your whole mood. I mean, it is such an important aspect of it, but it does become one of the things that you revolve your life around from start to finish, from beginning to end of your 24-hour day. Sleep is so important. And it gets very frustrating because it also limits the things that you can go do because you're so dictated by sleep schedules, by nap schedules and wake up times, nap times, bedtimes, all of those things. You're very much revolved around that. So as you're building a routine in your day, it looks like, okay, wake up time is here, food is here, nap time is here, lunch is here, snack is here, dinner's here, bedtime is here. And that's like your day. That's what you start to feel like. And maybe like a couple of loads of laundry in there now. Okay. Couple of loads of laundry. That's starting to feel like a pretty big day. That's starting to fill our agenda, but let's move on. Let's go one more item on our list. The last one is shelter. Shelter, basic shelter. You have now taken on the role of managing the shelter pretty much entirely by yourself. If your husband helps on the weekends, that's great, but you're taking on the role of that. You're taking on the role of managing the household. And that is So exhausting and so insane because you live in the household. You're a stay-at-home mom, which means your kids are home, which means you're home, which means it's constantly getting messy. It's constantly being used. So you're constantly tidying, picking up, cleaning, fixing. There's going to be marker on the wall at your house, okay? Not at the daycare's house. There's going to be a door that gets opened and goes through the wall at your house. Not going to happen at daycare or anybody else's house. There's going to be endless amounts of dishes at your house, not at the daycare's house. Okay. There's constant sweeping, constant vacuuming, because the muddy shoes that come in from playing outside in the rain, which we love so much, that goes through your carpet. That goes through your hard flooring. You have to sweep that. You have to mop that and clean that. All of these things, the dust, because you're there living and breathing and taking up space in your shelter, all of that tenfold. Okay. You think keeping up with your house when you're a working mom is difficult. Okay. Try being in your home all the time with all of these messes happening 24/7 all the time, especially when you have young toddlers, young kids that don't understand or are still learning. I should reiterate that, are still learning to help you pick up and to help you clean and to help to learn to pick up after themselves. Okay. I've heard it from moms, even teenagers, even as the kids get older. You will create systems that hopefully helps you delegate tasks so you're not doing it all the time. But when you have very young children and you decide that you want to stay home, it's on you, girl. It is on you all the time. That's what you've signed up for, just you to manage that. Not only does that include the inside of the house sometimes, but for a lot of us women, we love to garden. A lot of us women, we love to be outside. It's so good for us. And, science and the medical industry is now telling us like, it's very good for you to get your hands in the dirt, to walk outside barefoot, to grow a garden and all of these things. So now we're not only taking care of the four walls of our household and managing that, but you're also managing your outside space also. I never really understood until I started doing it, the amount of work that it would take to manage these basic necessities of life. Now, when we go back to building our routine, okay, so we have our sleep, okay, so wake up time, breakfast, lunchtime, nap, snack time, sometimes another nap at some point in there. And then we have dinner and bedtime. And then you add also in there laundry in between in pockets of time. And then you add in there cleaning up, doing the dishes. Maybe you're mowing the lawn or doing some gardening or planting some flowers. You add in these other tasks for managing the shelter of your home. Managing the shelter also goes into managing your food storage, making sure that you have groceries to go into food prepping and planning these meals and things like that's on you. And it's so much because it's, like I said, 3 meals a day, 1 to 2 snacks a day, constant. I've personally limit snacks. We don't have a free-for-all snacking house. We have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and usually an afternoon snack, and that's about it. And if they don't have an afternoon snack within a timely manner, they do need to wait until dinner time. Otherwise, my children won't eat the food that I've made. So we're pretty strict about that. But that took me some time to figure out all of the frustrations revolving around food and managing our home and managing the shelter. I never really realized that the basic necessities in life would become such a prominent part of my life. I thought in my mind I was going to become this beautiful homemaker and do these like beautiful things. And it was going to be just relaxing. And I'd have all this time and the house would never be messy. And I'd always be caught up on everything. And I'd have time to cook the meals and make these elaborate dinners. And I even thought, oh, I'll make my kids' clothes and I'll sew them and I'll learn to do all these beautiful things. And holy shit, reality check. Okay. The reality is you're never caught up on your house. It's always going to be dirty. plain and simple as a stay-at-home mom. There's always going to be something that needs clean. Always, 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 always. So now the balance comes to step away from the mess and figure out how to be happy even with the mess. Okay. Because otherwise you would spend your entire life just cleaning and tidying and picking up the random socks. I never realized that the food that I love to cook my family would be so constant that I would get burnt out and I would get resentful and I would get grumpy. And all I would want to do is just open up a can of SpaghettiOs and give them something that's just absolute garbage. But I love them so much that I can't bring myself to do it. So I continue to cook and prepare and make these meals and find the energy within me to do something that's still exciting and that I love. And, you know, food was something I was passionate about, but eventually I had to step away from something that I was passionate about to just survive, to just get back to the basics of making and prepping simple meals for my family to keep them alive, put food on the table. And then I'll get these energy spurts where I want to go back and I want to get creative again. And I start baking bread. And then I have this other flow of, I don't want to do this anymore because I'm feeling like a chef. So all of these basic necessities, all of that goes into what you would think as simple, and you have these opportunities to take care of this and manage this a little bit better, end up feeling like it is literally your entire life. These basic necessities become everything that you're focused on, and that becomes everything that your routine is. But I don't want to scare you. I do think it's possible because I have found the possibilities within that to be happy. Okay. So enough of the funny talk. Enough of the reality check. I mean, that is literally, I want you to know that that is a reality. If anybody's interested in being a stay-at-home mom, it's a reality. Okay. It's a true reality. And all my mama listeners can give me an amen. They know what I'm talking about. But beyond that, beyond the humor of that and the reality of that is that it's beautiful. Because when you're doing these things, when you are cooking the millionth dinner for your family, your kids are there enjoying every bit of it. They're enjoying seeing you do it. They're enjoying getting to help with it. They're enjoying sitting down at the table as a family. And, you know, in the midst of all of that, there is chaos and there is fighting and there is, you know, aspects of it that the kids don't like. Maybe they didn't eat their green beans, but there is so much of it that's beautiful. Okay. You get to see the kids rip off the clothes, throw them on the grass and run to the garden and start playing in the dirt. Okay. So with that, there are ways for us to find the gratitude within the moment and find our joy within the moment. But there are those moments where we start to feel like we're drowning in just keeping up with these basic necessities. You know, your role is keeping up with these basic necessities. And sometimes it feels impossible. It feels like it's never ending and you're never going to complete it. And the realization that I had come to is that you don't complete it. These are just tasks that you fulfill during the entire day. And the reality is we only have to do it for a little while. In the whole grand scheme of our life, in the whole grand scheme of our kids' lives, we only get to do it for a little while. And if you want to make that choice to become a full-time mom, there are ways that you can find fulfillment within that. There are ways that you can find gratitude within the acts of serving their basic needs. And I talk about that in other podcast episodes as well. But washing the dishes, one of those moments that you can get really, really slow and really intentional and find your gratitude in, I'm washing these dishes right now because I got to serve my family a healthy meal today. I did the work to prepare this food for my family today. I'm sweeping up the mud in the entryway because the kids went outside and splashed in the puddles and ran through the driveway. And they came back in so excited for me to make them hot cocoa and just laugh and smile. And they had so much joy being kids. And we prepare the cocoa, we clean up the mess, we take care of them, and we find the joy in those little moments. And those little moments in the midst of all of those basic needs are the moments that you live for as a stay-at-home mom, and they will bring you more fulfillment than any aspect of a career ever could, than any aspect of working outside of the home, because that is the true meaning of life. bringing life into this world and seeing the life come out of them, and being able to inhale that breath, being able to inhale that life and let that fulfill you is one of the most amazing, amazing aspects of being a full-time mom. So I just want to give you that last message of beauty and hope and just absolute fulfillment and joy within that role, if that's the path that you decide to choose, or if that is the path that you've decided to choose, if that is the path that you have chosen. So let me know what you think about this episode. I just had to share this sort of reality check for anybody that is looking into being a full-time mom, or, if you are a full-time mom, I hope you found some humor in this. And like I said, just give me a big amen, because we're all in this together, providing the basic needs for our families. And my hat goes off to each and every one of you, because that role is so important, but it is so overwhelming sometimes. And it feels like you're just, the maid in the house sometimes. And I want you to know that by setting up some of these systems I just briefly talked about, you can find those moments and those pockets of fulfillment. And you will eventually have children that can, prepare their own snack and pick up their socks and start a load of laundry. And you can start delegating some of those things, and life does get a little more teamwork oriented for you in your household. So thank you so much for listening today, sweet mama. I look forward to talking to you all again very soon.